Wednesday. It's been to 90 this afternoon. It's 88 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by the Lawn Doctor. Just one application of Lawn Doctor's HydroGuard service reduces your watering frequency by up to 1 day a week, saving you water and money. Call 753-LAWN.
If you've ever passed by 485 North Main, you've likely noticed how well kept the property is. The grass is always green and the flower beds are always well kept and in bloom. What you see on the outside is exactly what you'll find inside. Care and attention to detail. Exactly what you want when you're dealing with one of your most important senses, your hearing. Dr. Daines' love and care for the community has always gone beyond the front steps at Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology. So if you're not hearing as well as you used to, stop in at 485 North Main in Logan or visit them online at cachehearing.com.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. A woman was arrested after being accused of an incident involving a child where she allegedly grabbed an 8-year-old boy by the head and forcibly removed him from a wagon during a confrontation in the street. 53-year-old Tiffany Day was booked on suspicion of one count of child abuse with injury on Monday during the well-known Pioneer Day parade. According to a probable cause statement, and this incidentally did happen in Salt Lake City. According to a probable cause statement, an unidentified woman and her children were walking together, pulling a wagon on their way to attend the parade. In an attempt to avoid a transient camp in the area, they chose to walk around it by using the street. During their walk, it was reported that Day noticed them with the wagon and became agitated, accusing them of stealing her own wagon. Despite the mother's efforts to continue on their way, the situation escalated as Day advanced toward them in the middle of the street. As Day approached, she grabbed the 8-year-old child by the head and forcefully pulled him out of the wagon. Following the incident, officers located Day and took her into custody. The mother positively identified her as the person responsible for the altercation. According to a probable cause statement, while interacting with officers, Day made exciting utterances where she stated that she was sorry and confused, and that she thought that was a blue wagon, not black. Day was booked into the Salt Lake County Jail. And crews today were dispatched to a hazmat incident in an industrial area of Salt Lake City where an explosion had been reported earlier in the morning. According to the Salt Lake Fire Department, the incident happened in the area of 1900 West and Fortune Avenue, where a tanker reportedly exploded just after 5:30 a.m., injuring 2 people who were working at the site. Salt Lake Fire Division Chief Dan Walker said both sustained minor injuries. One was transported to the hospital. The industrial park is located at the center of a triangle bordered by I-15 to the west, California Avenue to the south, and the Jordan River to the east. There are multiple buildings in the area, including a gas station less than 800 feet away. KVNU News Time is 5:08. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
The Aggies are back on KVNU. Hear every game along with the best coverage before and afterwards on News Talk KVNU, the home again for the Aggies.
Dr. Josh Redd, chiropractic physician, explains how Red River Health and Wellness can help you.
If you have low thyroid and you're taking thyroid medication, the biggest question you should ask yourself is what's causing my low thyroid specifically? If you don't know the answer to that question, it's important to call us. At Red River, we identify triggers that will cause the low thyroid to begin with. One of the most common causes of low thyroid is a disease called Hashimoto's disease. This is an autoimmune disease that is a lot more complicated than just a primary thyroid issue. This is why people will be on thyroid hormone but still feel little to no improvement because nothing's being done to address the bigger, more complicated problem, which is Hashimoto's. If you have low thyroid or you have an autoimmune disease and you're on medication and still don't feel well, call Red River.
Schedule your appointment today at 855-55-RIVER. Red River Health and Wellness with offices in Logan, South Jordan, Springville, and St. George.
Call Red River today.
This Tuesday, April Davis will change the world. She doesn't know that yet. All she knows is that she went to justserve.org and volunteered an hour of her time. Browsing through dozens of service opportunities in her community, April decided to spend her Tuesday evening serving dinner to mothers and their children at a transitional house. She doesn't know she'll be serving a particular mother and daughter who will be spending their first night in this home. April doesn't know that the hot meal she'll serve is the first this mother and daughter will have had in a week, or that the simple smile she'll offer as she serves them will help them realize that things are going to be all right. Which is why this Tuesday, April Davis will change the world. See the difference you can make. Sign up for service opportunities in your community. Visit justserve.org. JustServe.org is provided as a service by The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Hour 2 of today's show, Tuesday, July 25th. I'm Jason Williams. Bill Walter here in the studio as well. Coming up, why are the cable news channels, Washington Post, New York Times, Chicago Tribune, LA Times, and more talking about an event that happened last Friday, a campaign event that happened last Friday here in Utah, and what local electeds here in the state have to say about it. We'll get to some of the fallout from a comment made by Florida Governor Ron Desantis at the Capitol here in Utah last Friday at a fundraising event. That's coming up later on in the hour. Kicking things off here, though, I'm really excited to talk about this, and it's my fault we're just getting to this. I was actually handed a flyer at the parade in Hiram City on July 4th, and then things just got busy. And so I was able to reach out to the organizers this morning and still make something happen in time, but the clock is ticking. In fact, registration for this event we're about to discuss is only until this Friday, so you need to get in this week to register for this year's Do It For Dawson 3-on-3 Community Basketball Tournament. This is quickly becoming one of the most fun fundraising events in the Valley. And part of the reason, of course, is this is an amateur basketball tournament. So you can imagine that this is both fun for the competitors, but also for those watching as well, an opportunity to, in a good-natured way, really just kind of show your skills and own the competition. But alongside the basketball tournament itself on August 5th at Mountain Crest, the organizers this year have J.C. Carroll and other USU basketball players. They have, of course, food and concessions, raffle prizes. Everybody who registers gets a T-shirt. They'll be giving championship hats away to division winners. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. This all happens for a really good cause. And to talk to us about it, joining us now from the Do It For Dawson organization, Keisha Baldwin. And Keisha, appreciate you taking some time for us today. For those not familiar with the story, you and I had spoken earlier, and we'd hoped to be able to get Dawson Pugmire's father, Nate Pugmire, here on the show today. Nate was otherwise occupied. And so, Keisha, if you can, tell us the Pugmire family story and how this Do It For Dawson event came to be.
Sure. So last May of 2022, so Dawson Pugmire is the fourth son of Nate and Jamie. And he, unbeknownst to anyone, had a malformed blood vessel in his brain that one morning burst. And they, rushed him to the hospital, rushed him to primary children's, tried to relieve the pressure on his brain, and it was just too much for him. So he passed away on May 15th. And so in his honor, his family are big basketball players. His dad played down at SUU. And still people know, Pugmire, like they remember him. And his brothers played at Mountain Crest. His next older brother is going to be a freshman this year, plays basketball. Anyways, and Dawson loved basketball, and he loved people. Legacy, we would put together this community basketball tournament. And I love how you hit it right on the nail on the head when you mentioned that it is for everyone. It's not just for those who are. And we raised funds last year we donated to Primary Children's. Nate and Jamie and their family took a bunch of Serenani, I think I'm saying that right, blankets to families who are currently at Primary Children's. And then they also donated money to the Mountain Crest Sub for Santa, and their basketball team was able to help a family in our community who had lost their father. And then they also donated money to Wellsville City, where Dawson is from, to go towards building a community center in the middle of town to just bring more people together. So this year, the same kind of thing. We'll donate to Primary Children's. And then if there whatever other need arises in the community, they want to be able to help. So this all we don't keep, all proceeds go towards something. So we don't keep anything for ourselves.
That's what's amazing about this. And for listeners out there, I urge you to find the Do It For Dawson Facebook page. It's some great photos there, and just. Keisha, this story, as it hit the news last year, was heartbreaking. This young man's smile, just a happy kid, and then just overnight, this family is affected by this. Their lives changed forever, and for them to turn around, having every excuse to just crawl into a hole and hide. They turn around and instead start this community event to raise money for some great causes, as you've mentioned a few of them here. It's such an inspiring story, and that's why I love spotlighting this here on the show, because this is an opportunity for everybody to get out. And we should point this out, Keisha. You don't have to compete to be a part of this, right? For those, because there are a lot of people out there listening right now that are thinking, I'm not getting out in the tournament. But there are other ways people can engage, right?
Oh, for sure. We have, and for one thing too, if you don't have a team to put together, that's why we're doing these midday events that for $5 is all to enter, but we have a 3-point competition and a foul shot competition, and then we'll play a bunch of rounds, lightning rounds. And last year we were able to get the basketball players. We had Mason Falsliff come, JC Carroll came, and we played a bunch of rounds with them of lightning, and it was a blast. So you can come to that. There's concessions. We also have a prize raffle. So each ticket is just $1, and we have a big list of things that people can put a ticket in. Like we've got a 2-night stay in Bear Lake. Wow. We have a bunch of Stanley mugs and Swig gift cards. We've got the Sportsman's going to donate something. We've got Crystal Hot Spring passes. We have 2 hours of an indoor batting cage and a pitching machine rental, and that's like a fourth of what we've got. So Jalen Moore, he's donating some training sessions and some merchandise for MLB basketball. So
that is very cool.
So yeah, just come and enjoy, and that's the big thing about it. Of course, we like competition. I'm right there, but it's also a community, build everybody up and just be together type of thing. So that's.
I got out last year, and I'll confess, Keisha, I wasn't going to get out and compete. My skills are not there even for a community tournament. But I did get out and watch last year, and people were having the time of their lives, and to have J.C. Carroll and other USU players there on hand as well for the kids, and even competing, stepping in at one point during one of the tournament when someone just kind of needed a break. It was just a lot of fun, and again, all this going to a good cause, as Keisha mentioned already. Last year, through the proceeds raised from this event, they were able to help repair some of the community sports equipment there at Mountain Crest. They were able to give a lot of money to Primary Children's to help the Wellsville Tabernacle Foundation as that project continued, and more. So the whole point of this is, as Nate says, as you've said, Keisha, to take Dawson's memory and his smile and make other people smile, and then do it in a way that's fun, gets everybody out playing Dawson's favorite game and raising some money for good causes. So for folks who want to be involved, what do they need to know? I know on the Facebook page for listeners, again, that is Do It For Dawson 3v3, and I've posted that on our own Facebook page if you want to find it there. If you're driving now and need to find it later, there's a registration link for those who want to compete, and that deadline is this Friday, right?
Yeah. That way it just gives us time to make our brackets. There's a chance that someone's like, and they missed the deadline Friday. If my number is on everything, I'm the one that runs all the social media. If you just message me, there's a chance we can squeeze you in. And we do need more teams. So right now we have about 25. Last year we had closer to 50. So we're really hoping, we know it's busy, but that's why we do block out time. So we've got lots of time so that people can plan their Saturdays. So for between 8 to 11:30, we have grades 4 through 6. Then the halftime midday fun is from 11:30 to 1. And then from 1 to 4:30 are grades 7 through 9. And these are grades that they're going into this next year. And then from 4:30 to 8:30, we have our young adults, which is 18 to 31. Then we have our adults, so 31 and up. And then we have our high school age.
That's where things get really competitive, right? The 31 and up crowd.
Yeah. It's kind of funny you mentioned that because we kind of just do like call your own fouls type of thing, but we bring our whistles just in case, and we did have to use them, and it was in those adult leagues.
I tell you, 31 and up, that's when we start cheating.
Yeah. We still got it. We have to prove it when we're old.
That's right. Yeah, just more to prove once you hit that age. This is such a great thing, and again, a really inspiring story from a family, again, that had every excuse just to throw in the towel and go hide, and they wouldn't have been blamed for doing so. Instead, they turn it around into this now annual event, Do It For Dawson, the community basketball tournament. Again, it's coming up August 5th. It is at Mountain Crest High School. They're still looking for teams. There's still a few spots open, but registration does end this Friday. It's $100 for a team of 4. And also, as part of this day's event, as well as the different age brackets and competitions in this tournament at Mountain Crest all day long, August 5th. It's a Saturday. They'll also have USU's J.C. Carroll, other basketball players there as well. Concessions and food, raffle prizes. Everybody that registers gets a T-shirt. And the winners are looking at some championship hats they'll be giving out as well. Very cool stuff, and all for a good cause. Again, money will be donated to Primary Children's and go towards helping the community at large. Last year they gave, again, money to Mountain Crest High School for the community sports equipment they have there. Also Sub for Santa.
It was mostly to help for a Sub for Santa. So it was to donate back. It was to the basketball program, but it was those boys who went out and did the shopping, the basketball team, and then gave it to Sub for Santa. So it went back to someone in the community. Yeah.
That is very cool. And I hear they have video of that, too. I haven't seen it, but...
I do. If you go to my to the Instagram page, I will... That was one thing I wanted to do and try to post tomorrow are pictures of them doing their donations.
Doing the shopping and donating.
We do have an Instagram page. If you search Do It For Dawson 3v3, you should find us there, too.
That is very cool. Keisha, I really appreciate you giving us some of your time today. And Nate, if you're out there listening, thanks for trying. I know, things get busy, and it's just an honor to be able to spotlight this. Again, an inspiring story all around, from tragedy to giving back to the community in a matter of weeks. That was what was so impressive about this last year. Happy to see it come around again. And again, the Do It For Dawson Community Basketball Tournament is August 5th at Mountain Crest. Registration is open, but only until Friday. Registration link on our Facebook page, or you can search on Facebook for Do It For Dawson 3v3. And as Keisha mentioned, also on Instagram there, Do It For Dawson. Either way, you'll find it. And the registration link's right there, or if you're driving now, find it on our own Facebook page as well. And be out there. If you don't want to compete, again, they're giving stuff away. They have concessions. There will be a lot of fun things to watch, including those who did register in the teams to play, because that was fun to see as well. And everything you need to know via the links on our Facebook page, or again, search Do It For Dawson on Facebook or Instagram. Get out and support this organization and this event in any way you can. And finally, Keisha, you are still looking for donors for raffle prizes. If someone has something they want to give away as a raffle prize, they can reach out to you?
Yeah, they would just go ahead and message me on one of those social media accounts. And we have our committee, so we do have a couple people who are specifically over a raffle. So I'll just send you their way, and yeah, that would be awesome. So
perfect. All right. Again, everything you need to know, whether to register to compete, just details on attending and watching and grabbing some good food, and donating directly to Do It For Dawson. All of that available via the social media channels. Search on Facebook and Instagram for Do It For Dawson, or I've linked to them both on our Facebook page, as well as the direct registration link to compete. Saturday, August 5th, the Do It For Dawson Community Basketball Tournament is back. And our guest, again, Keisha Baldwin of Do It For Dawson. And Keisha, really appreciate taking some time for us today, and we'll see you out there on the 5th.
Okay, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's our pleasure. And again, for listeners, this is such an inspiring thing. Just a matter of weeks from tragedy to an organization being set up to give back to the community. We would all hope we respond this way, right? And I'm so glad to see it come back again this year. The Do It For Dawson Community Basketball Tournament, August 5th at Mountain Crest. Everything you need to know via the links on our Facebook page, or one more time, search Do It For Dawson on social media, Facebook and Instagram alike. You'll find everything you need to know and some great pictures and details and more. And we'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
The Teddy Bear Ride is back, benefiting the Cash Children's Justice Center. Gear up, bring your motorcycle, a new stuffed teddy bear, and join us on July 29th at the Saddleback Harley-Davidson store in Logan. Registration at 8 a.m., donuts and coffee at 9 a.m., then kickstands up at 10 a.m. as we embark on a scenic ride through Cache Valley with our teddy bears. After the ride, we will enjoy lunch and live music. Don't miss out on one of the best rides of the year. Together, we can make a significant impact ensuring a safe future for all children.
Vehicle accidents are stressful enough. You don't need someone showing up at the scene trying to pressure you into letting them tow away your vehicle. Call your roadside assistance provider or insurance company for towing company suggestions, or consult with police on the scene. And always have the price and terms in writing before you let them hook it up. If you suspect fraud, call us at 1-800-TEL-NICB or visit www.nicb.org. A public service message from the National Insurance Crime Bureau.
Wednesday edition, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton Show, the absolute latest on the continued fallout of UFO hearings, really, that will be going on Capitol Hill. Plus, Buck, we got a couple of guests on kind of a big deal, the Republican primary for president.
That's right. We got Chris Christie joining. We're going to make sure we ask him the important questions. Join us on Clay and Buck.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
There are a ton of social networking websites, but one stands apart for a very special reason. This one saves lives. It's MatchingDonors.com. MatchingDonors.com links organ donors with people in need of kidney and other transplants. In the U.S., 19 people die each day waiting for an organ transplant, most of them for kidneys. If you've ever considered becoming a living organ donor, or if you have someone in need of an organ transplant, visit MatchingDonors.com. Home of the greatest gift of all, the gift of life. MatchingDonors.com.
Thanks again to Keisha Baldwin for joining us. She did so on short notice. I didn't mention that during the interview. We're going to speak with Nate Pugmire. His day kind of went south, as happens to all of us at the day job. So, Nate, if you're out there listening again, thanks for trying. But Keisha, appreciate your time. Great to be able to spotlight this. I don't know how else to say it. You know, we get a chance to talk with a lot of people involved with nonprofits and doing really good work here in Cache Valley and throughout Utah here on the show. But this one really speaks to me just because this was a family that last year, as I said a couple of times during the interview, had every excuse to just disappear, just roll up the walls and go about their thing, dealing with their grief. And instead, they created this fundraising event that's back again this year, the Do It For Dawson Community Basketball Tournament. I really would like to think that all of us would be so brave in that scenario. Tragedy strikes, and you immediately turn it into helping others. Just an inspiring thing all around. So get out and support them any way you can, either by actually competing in the tournament Saturday, August 5th at Mountain Crest. Registration open till Friday, or donating raffle items, just showing up to support, donating directly to the Do It For Dawson organization. All of it goes to Primary Children's Hospital and other local charities, including last year they helped sub for Santa, the Wellsville City Foundation for the Tabernacle Restoration, all kinds of stuff. All of it goes to a good cause, and they really deserve your support. Do It For Dawson on social media and via the links on our own Facebook page if you want to find it there. And we'll be back, talk about why an event Friday here in Utah, a campaign event at the Capitol, is still, 4 days later, the talk of the nation. And what Utah lawmakers who were in attendance and those who weren't have to say about what happened. That's after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:31, and the news is brought to you by Logan Extermination. 64-year-old Brian Melvin Brandenberger, a co-founder of FanX, has been convicted on charges of sending threatening emails with intentions to bomb multiple buildings in Utah and other parts of the U.S., according to official court documents. Brandenburg, residing in Waipahu, Hawaii, was found guilty on one count of transmitting a threat in interstate commerce and 6 counts of making threats and conveying false information regarding the use of explosives. The conviction followed a trail of email exchanges between Brandenburg and Utah State Court employees that began in March 2022. Court documents revealed that Brandenburg repeatedly sought updates on his divorce ruling, but when he did not receive a prompt response, his communications turned into a barrage of expletives. Brandenburg escalated his threats on May 4th of 2022, mentioning specific locations he intended to bomb throughout Utah, including the University of Utah, the Utah State Capitol, 3rd District Courthouse in Salt Lake City, the mayor's office, and a sacred temple. He also targeted additional popular places such as Rockefeller Center in New York and a federal courthouse in San Diego, California. A professional bull jumper is making a comeback after being injured, or did make a comeback last night during the Utah Days of 47 rodeo. Manu Lataste has been bull jumping for 23 years, starting when he was just 14 years of age in France, and says this has become his entire life. During the Utah Days of 47 rodeo, there was a scary moment in the arena during his 3rd performance. He was hit by a bull and then run over before he could gather himself, stating the bull just kicked him in the air, so he was not expecting that at all, and he just fell to the ground. Despite all this, Manu said it's part of a dangerous sport, and he was ready to return to the arena the next day. And a far-right activist who led the takeover of a federal wildlife refuge in Oregon now must pay millions of dollars in damages after a hospital in Idaho won a defamation lawsuit against him. The lawsuit by St. Luke's Regional Health accuses Ammon Bundy of his associate, Diego Rodriguez, of making defamatory statements against the hospital and its employees. The statements came after Rodriguez's infant grandson was temporarily removed from his family and taken to St. Luke's amid concerns for his health. Police say medical personnel determined the child was malnourished and had lost weight. The hospital claimed Bundy and Rodriguez orchestrated a smear campaign against it. KVNU News Time is 5:34.
As the summer's war against weeds and pests rages on, a new bug threat starts hopping around, destroying garden plants and flowers. Luckily, you are ready for them with Logan Extermination's Perimeter Grasshopper Control. It's like a minefield for the minute menace.
Good job, men. Another bug bites the dirt. Let's regroup before the next wave hits.
They do what they are trained to do. Strike terror into termites, bash the bed bugs, and cook the cockroaches. Remember the brave men and women at Logan Extermination. Call 752-8450.
Treatment areas vary. Call for a quote today.
Extreme heat is moving east to places like Kansas City, Missouri, where those getting ready include Kansas City Fire Battalion Chief Michael Hopkins.
Our biggest concern is heat-related emergencies with the fire department. We'll get an increased call volume of folks suffering from heat exhaustion, heat stroke. And we have a greater concern when the temperatures are like this for our fire crews when we go out and fight fires.
Creating new federal monuments, President Biden protecting locations important to the murder of black teen Emmett Till in 1955 and his mother's civil rights work. 58 years after the assassination of Malcolm X in New York City, attorneys representing his family held a news conference with a witness, Mustafa Hassan.
Now, a series of gunshots, number 10, then rang out from another direction, and I immediately ran from my post at the entrance and witnessed Malcolm X being shot.
And others suspect some kind of law enforcement conspiracy. Wall Street major indexes closed higher. Chuck Sievertson, ABC News.
KVNU weather for tonight. Partly cloudy skies, low around 60. Partly cloudy in the morning, then mostly sunny. Hot mid-90s. West winds 10 to 20 miles per hour in the afternoon. And then another hot day on Thursday with upper 90s for the high. It's been to 90 this afternoon. It's 88 currently at KVNU. If warm summer nights make it hard for you to sleep, check out the copper-infused gel memory foam mattress at U&I. You'll sleep cooler and more comfortably. Always a better buy at U&I. Downtown Logan, 28 West, 1st North. And for the latest news, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. The Fed is set to raise interest rates again this week. Why isn't the central bank ready to say inflation is over? Here are two of the main reasons. Also, is now the time to buy a car with loan rates high and inventory still recovering? We'll have a strategy for those who need new wheels and how to maintain your happy summer mood all year long. Wednesday on This Morning, America's First News. From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
If a natural disaster comes knocking, how prepared is your family? You can't just close the door on earthquakes, floods, or hurricanes and hope they go away. That's why it's important to make a plan now. Ready.gov/plan has the tools and tips you need to prepare your family for an emergency. So if disaster shows up at your doorstep, you'll be ready. Visit ready.gov/plan and make a plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Feels like Tuesday. Tuesday has no feel.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Save the potentially controversial topic for last. I'm kidding. It has become a bit of a controversy, I guess you'd say, nationally, but it's been going on for a while. And then suddenly we find ourselves in the midst of it. So how did this happen for Utah? Why is a story that still today, 4 days later, at the Washington Post, New York Times, all the cable news channels were talking about it, how does Utah tie in? It starts with a campaign event that took place. Now, there's some local criticism for this, but this is kind of an afterthought after what was said at the event. People weren't happy that Utah lawmakers and the governor were hosting a political candidate in the Gold Room at the Capitol. This is normally avoided. There aren't any rules against it, but this is a taxpayer-funded site. We pay for the carpet and the drapes. And so generally, they try to avoid outright, partisan political events, especially in the Gold Room, which is the most expensive room at the Capitol. But on Friday, as I understand it, the invitation of State Senator Todd Weiler from Bountiful area, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis spoke. This was a campaign event. He was here for a big fundraiser later that night that Mike Lee and others attended, $1,000 a plate kind of thing. And so he's running for president. He's raising money, and so he'll be back. This is tradition. It happens. Utah is a guaranteed ATM for Republican candidates. They don't really have to spend a lot of time here because the odds are, well, I mean, it didn't work for Trump, but outside of Trump's experience, the Republican presidential candidate always wins a majority in Utah. Trump didn't. He was the first Republican to not win a majority. He won the nomination, but by less than 50%. Usually, though, it's a guaranteed the Republican will win the Utah's vote by 50 plus at least. And so they swing by for money. They stop in Deer Valley. That's usually where these events take place, and this was no exception. But before that, State Senator Todd Weiler, as I understand it, again, this is coming at me, how this came about is coming at me third hand through folks who know Todd and others, Senator Weiler, and others. But Senator Weiler basically wanted to send a message, and he did this once before with a letter that went around signed by 80-plus elected officials in Utah, including many from here in Cache County, people who were basically saying, look, we do not want Trump to be the nominee again. But they're saying that by saying we're going to get behind DeSantis early. We're getting behind him. We feel he is the best candidate to maybe win in 2024 to beat Joe Biden, and Trump is not. And that's what this is all about. So Senator Weiler asked Governor DeSantis, Florida governor, to speak at the Capitol Friday afternoon ahead of this big, expensive fundraising event that was going to take place in Deer Valley later that night. And that's what happened. The discussion was pretty typical for what you'd expect. It was a campaign stump speech. Senate President Stuart Adams was the only one to give an outright endorsement of DeSantis as his preferred candidate in the GOP nomination that will really get underway actually next month with the first RNC-hosted debate. And others made comments. Again, Stuart Adams was the only one with an outright endorsement. He also tweeted that endorsement out later in the day, making it official online as well. The whole thing was live streamed. National press was paying attention because, of course, this is a presidential candidate. They follow them everywhere. And so then there was a Q&A portion of the event. And by the way, if you get a chance to see this video, do not forget to notice Fox 13's Ben Winslow and his chill. It's the funniest thing. So the camera's panning back and forth during a couple of the Q&A exchanges between Associated Press journalists, Salt Lake Tribune journalists. There was a representative of the Standard Examiner and the Daily Herald. So local papers, national press, and more. Some of the wire services were there, and a couple of folks from the big ones, Washington Post and New York Times, were there as well. They basically travel with these campaigns. It's good. It gets clicks, these presidential races, especially a multi-candidate nomination race like the Republicans are headed into again. So they follow them everywhere. So they're there at the Capitol. There's a Q&A, and the camera's panning back and forth, and every time it scoots past the couch there in the Gold Room, there's a nice leather couch up against the far wall. And if you go in to interview the governor there, that's where you sit. You sit there. He sits at the other end. But Ben Winslow is alone on this couch, just kind of laid back, legs crossed, and his head's just going back and forth following this exchange as it plays out. It's the funniest thing. Anyway, that's an aside. So what happens? Well, last week there were some headlines before this event in Utah in which Florida education standards were unveiled. And these were so back in January, Florida, Governor DeSantis has appointed a whole new education board. And he's done so, clearly with his partisan prospects in mind. This was a stunt. It happens. It's politics. It's distasteful, but it happens, and he's far from alone, unfortunately. But so he populates this board with the right, quote unquote, kind of people, and they do exactly what he wants them to do, which is So their first objection is to advanced placement Black history courses. Yeah, in 2023. And their objection is that it's just too negative. So I'm barely paraphrasing. And so they force them to rewrite them. They change it, tweak it a little bit. And then this board gets underway in developing the state's own standards along these lines when it comes to teaching Black history in high schools and middle schools and grade schools. And so then they're unveiled last week. And where things get controversial, one, they messed up big time. I don't know if it was intentional. I'm guessing an oversight because no one gets history this wrong. But there was a major historical event in which hundreds of residents of an almost all-Black town in Oklahoma were murdered by mobs. And in the written history that would be taught according to these standards, they kind of changed that story. And they said, "Oh, sorry, that was a screw up," and I'm sure it was. But either way, that's what got everyone's attention. Everyone's like, "Whoa, who gets that wrong?" It's a pretty well known story. Does this group Desantis has put together have a clue what they're doing? Historians are saying. So that gets everybody's attention, and then the standards are unveiled last week, just before his trip to Utah. And in the standards, there's a portion in which teachers will be asked to teach in the classroom that slavery wasn't all bad, that slaves did benefit from the skills and sometimes even education they got through their masters. And so when they were freed, they were able to go start businesses or have careers. Now, while not technically incorrect, it is a horrible way to teach about slavery, right? So understandably, that stirs up some controversy. So that brings us to Friday here in Utah. How do we get involved? And why is this video? And my heart goes out to every Utah lawmaker there. Whether you agree with them or disagree with them, this is not what they signed up for on Friday. This is a group of lawmakers from Candace Pierucci, representative in the House, Senator John Johnson, who is from Weber County, also teaches at USU. The governor was there for a bit, but he bailed early, understandably. And then Senator Todd Weiler, who organized it, Senate President Stuart Adams. These are, I think there's in the end 25 lawmakers who are there standing behind Ron DeSantis at the podium as he gives a campaign stump speech. And then it turns into the Q&A. And during the Q&A, Associated Press reporter says this controversy around the teaching of slavery in these new education standards in Florida that your hand-picked board has signed off on and written, there's this portion that says, we need to teach that slavery wasn't all bad, that slaves sometimes picked up skills while they were slaves. So when they were freed, they were able to, start businesses or go on, whatever. And how do you feel about that being in the standards? And DeSantis says, look, I didn't write them. I did. You'll have to talk to the people who wrote them. But he says at the end of his comment about not writing them and how people need to reach out to the board itself, DeSantis says, but I assume what they're talking about is you did have situations where a person maybe went on to become a blacksmith because as the slave, their master made them do blacksmithing. So when they were freed, they went on to be a blacksmith. I don't think he meant anything by the comment. I don't think he was trying to stir up. I guarantee he wasn't trying to stir up controversy, not to this level at least. But it did. It's a comment that has not landed well, to say the least. And so now this whole discussion, national discussion, has erupted around this. And again, my sympathies to the Utah lawmakers who did not sign up for this. All the photos on every story and every time this video has been shared by national press all around the country, 4 days in a row now, this discussion has been going on. And more reporting has been added to it since about the standards, about how they came to be, who wrote them, who was appointed, who was elected, things like that to this board. All of this has included this photo of these 25 Utah lawmakers standing behind DeSantis, all of them with just ghost white, mouth open chalk on their faces. And it's just, they're all famous now. Some of the reactions from around. So Senator Todd Weiler was very quick in his reaction. Again, he's the guy who organized this event and has said and maintained that he is full on endorsing DeSantis as a candidate in this race. He said that Trump is, Weiler has said before, exact quote, Trump is not going to be able to win. DeSantis needs to be the nominee to beat Biden. And he said that when he circulated the letter signed by 86 other elected officials here in Utah back in February. He said it again last week. That's why he organized this sort of pre-fundraiser public press event. And he said in a Twitter statement after DeSantis made the remarks, Senator Weiler was very quick to say everything about slavery was abhorrent. Everything. That's a quote. He was pressed on that by journalists who said, does this mean are you still endorsing DeSantis, despite the fact that he said, there were some good things that came out of slavery, like people learning to be blacksmiths, and then going on to be blacksmiths after they were freed. Weiler just sort of repeated the same thing. He said everything about slavery was abhorrent. Others in Utah, Candace Pierucci has not released a statement, but she did tell KUTV News on Sunday that she did not agree with the way things were phrased at the event on Friday, though she didn't get more specific. So there's some of the reaction as well from Utah lawmakers. But again, I'm not calling it funny, but it is kind of interesting. And these poor Utah lawmakers just there to kind of make a statement about who they support and why in this Republican nomination process. And then the photos are snapped, the video is filmed, and all of them are standing there while DeSantis makes this remark, which has now become a big national story. And now people are really digging into these standards in Florida. I'm sure it will stay a national story. I don't know what the lesson is here. Don't be photographed at events because you never know what the candidate you're backing will say after you're done. I don't know. Ronnie on the line. Ronnie with a question, as I understand it. Ronnie, you have a question?
Well, a question and a comment.
Okay.
I'm just wondering when Republicans are going to wake up and realize that DeSantis is as dangerous to the Republican Party and the country as Trump is in different ways. I mean, he's trying to I've been following his campaign speeches, and he is trying to rewrite the Black history story, even not only from K through 12, but he is even trying to get college professors in Florida to retell the tales of what really happened to the blacks. And, it's just dangerous. First you start banning books, and then you try and get teachers to change reality. I mean, these people were taken from their country, put in a boat, chained in the bottom of a boat, brought to America, and we know what the history is. But for somebody to be that naive to try and rewrite history is just appalling to me, and dangerous and scary. And
sure.
I watched as those lawmakers stood behind him, and they should have spoken out, but they did. Some of them look pretty white and pretty horrified, which they should be, but they should speak out and get him to stop right now, because this is very dangerous to our democracy. And so I don't know, what comments do you have to what I'm saying?
Well, first, Ronnie, I appreciate you calling and speaking your mind, and I, it makes me nervous. I don't like. We've seen this before. It hasn't always been targeted at the history of slavery or the black experience in America as it is now. But we've seen this before where we've wanted to actually, you know what? I'll give you an example that kind of popped up today. So another funny thing that happened here in Utah, Mayor Trent Staggs, who was our guest last week on the show, he's challenging Mitt Romney in the Senate race. He's the only candidate to officially file to run right now. So we had him on the show last week because he was here in town. He put out a video over the weekend, a campaign video, and in the bookshelf behind him, he had Romney's book, No Apologies. And everybody's kind of giving him a hard time about that. Like, man, maybe you should have pulled that book from your bookshelf before you. But that reminded me about that book. And Ronnie, that's how I'll respond to your comments. I hated that book. There was nothing in the book that was really wrong or ahistorical. Or I hate the notion that we are that fragile here in America that we could never apologize. That apologizing is somehow weak or puts us at a disadvantage on the global scale. How immature. And that's kind of my response to all of this. I don't understand, the Oklahoma massacre. That's an example that's in the news a lot lately because they said it was a mistake, but in these standards, they rewrote that entire story to where the mob of white people who came in and killed hundreds of residents of this town. This is a thing that happened. Well, they kind of tried to soften that a little bit to make it look like there was, they fought back. There was violence on their part, too. Well, of course they did. They were being invaded by an angry mob that wanted them dead, and they knew that. I hate to think that we are going to be guided by thoughts and people who are this fragile, that we can't face actual history. And that's kind of what all of this, to me, speaks of. It speaks of wanting to soften history. I heard a comment from a parent once recently. It was in the Standard Examiner, I think, after a school board meeting. A parent said, well, this makes my child uncomfortable to learn about these things. Yeah, good for your child being uncomfortable about it. But shame on you for saying that is a reason to not teach them the history. We should be uncomfortable with some parts of our history. We shouldn't be afraid to learn about it. And to me, that's what a lot of this is about. A lot of people saying, oh, why focus on the negative? Well, you kind of have to sometimes. It's the only way to grow as an individual and as a business and as a country. Sometimes you've just got to sit down and say, okay, where did we screw up? So we don't do it again. So, Ronnie, I'm with you. I think that this type of thing is dangerous. I do also think it'll burn out quick because I think the people who get excited about this type of rewriting of history to make it nicer are I don't think there are a lot of them. I think they're just very loud and very much online on social media. But I could be wrong, and that's scary. So, Ronnie, appreciate the call. Great to hear from you. Others out there, 753-5868. We'll be back right after this.
At Cache Valley Bank, we are celebrating our pioneers and their contributions to shaping our great state. Join us as we celebrate the Days of 47 with our promotion. From now until July 31st, you can receive a 4.7 annual percentage yield on an 18-month certificate of deposit, or a 4% annual percentage yield on an 1847-day certificate of deposit. Come visit us or give us a call to learn more and be part of the celebration. Cache Valley Bank, mountains await. Member FDIC. No minimum balance required. Early withdrawal penalty may apply.
Hi, this is Chris Wilson of Wilson Motor Company. It's the final days of our 80th anniversary sales event. We have reduced prices on over 300 Ford, Lincoln, Nissan, and pre-owned vehicles, including over 50 F-150s in stock and coming. We have rebates as high as $3,000 and interest rates as low as 0% for 60 months. Check out our inventory online before July 31st at wilsonmotor.com.
Wilson Motor Company, we make car buying easy.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Coming up this week on the show, still waiting for final details on which day for sure, but I guarantee you it will be this week, so you just have to listen every day. USU undergraduate researchers. That's kind of the coolest part about this. Undergraduate researchers at USU in the College of Science actually discovered some pretty important stuff when it comes to the use of CRISPR technology in medical situations. CRISPR, so we'll go into this in more detail when the interview happens, but CRISPR is the technology that allows for better understanding of certain gene editing and sequencing processes, and in a roundabout way is what led to the development of the first ever fully synthetic vaccines, which have been out since 2021, are safe, have protected us. Obviously, they knew what they were doing, and we can expect to see more of this. In fact, there are rumors of an HIV vaccine around the corner, vaccines for possibly the common cold could be possible in the future. Ironically, that one's going to take a while, though. These more dangerous viruses are actually easier to protect against. Weird, huh? Either way, this technology is amazing, and it is not very well understood. USU decided they wanted to do something about that, and in that process, not their goal, undergraduate researchers at USU discovered something really important that could change the way we treat everything from pneumonia to serious blood infections and more. We'll talk with the researchers themselves this week on the show. Dave Ramsey is next.